Hello.
Yo,
What's up?
what's going on?
Oh, nothing. Just hanging.
Huh?
Just hanging. Ooh, goldfish.
Uh-huh. Such a genius idea.
Goldfish crackers?
Yeah, they know what they're doing. That's why I sell them in these huge boxes. They know what's up. You're gonna finish. Crack.
I bought those little Ritz crackers with the peanut butter in them today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I ate half the box. I had to stop myself. And then I had 3 pieces of chicken wing pizza.
What'd your parents bring home?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a Facebook memory today where I had gotten pizza 7 years ago on this day, and I texted my mom and I was like, "Hey, if you guys want to do this on your way back, I will not be mad."
I can't believe the US government is taking Facebook to court for suggesting ideas to people. I can't
Is it
believe.
really?
Oh yeah. We went off the mark because of what you just said.
Because of my memory?
They're saying it's illegal that they put ideas.
Hello.
They do.
That's insane.
How we doing?
Hello, hello. Oh, Harold said hi too. Sorry.
Harold says hi. Santa.
Hello.
Get your little glasses and hat.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Hey, Jason.
What is that? Is
Breaking
that
up.
Jason trying to talk?
Yeah, Jason, your phone's breaking up in your back spot. Gotta mute you. All right. Looks like he froze in time.
Ooh, look at that fire.
I just froze you for now, Jason.
hey, how you guys doing?
Jason,
Yeah,
you're in yesterday. You're from yesterday. So
yeah.
I'm gonna mute you, dude.
Hey, how you guys doing?
I'm gonna mute you.
Internet.
I'm gonna mute. I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna mute you. There you go. Mute.
I'm just. There we go. Does it work now? There you go. Mute me.
Okay. Is he muted? All right, perfect. Sorry, I love you, but I had to mute you. Look at all, is Amber playing the Yuletime fireplace TV channel at her house, or is that a real fire? Oh, real, it's real, all right.
Real. We're in the basement. It's too dark for my face, so at least we can get some enjoyment. I'll be around the fire together at Christmas time.
Wonderful. I'm glad everybody showed up for my my hot topic. That's very nice of you. I guess I need to start talking about more vulnerable shit so everybody shows up. Yeah, so I said last time we got off that this is something that's kind of, I don't write anything down on these things ever. I tell you guys that all the time. It's kind of whatever's on my mind for the week, but I told you last week there was something that I did write down over like 3 years ago that I kind of realized about looking through my life and a moment of trying to figure out what was going on, some patterns that were happening in my life, and oops, did I just exit that? Oh yeah, editor. And obviously you saw the topic, like it's about narcissism and recognizing what it is, recognizing if you've been around somebody with the traits understanding what it is. But a moment, and I want to share some of that stuff with you that I wrote, and I learned through some therapy and just self-education, but it came back on my radar because I was listening to a Dr. Omni, she's a specialist in it, just recently came up and just got me, my mind sparked about it, so I wanted to talk about it. About probably 5 years ago in a relationship, I kind of realized I started seeing a pattern of just happenings. And at the time, obviously, I wasn't putting it on me, because at the time in my head, nothing was my fault in my life. I was making ways in my life that were producing results that I wanted. So how could anything be my fault? Like, I was producing the opportunity to make things happen that I wanted to happen in my life, from a success standpoint in my brain. So I wasn't tooled with the idea of recognizing my fault in many things. But I did recognize the fact that something was happening again at a higher level, way more amplified. And it made me take a hard look at it. And some of the things I found, I didn't even realize, like narcissism today is very buzzwordy. It's used a lot. It's used a lot to label somebody that's done something that's antagonistic in your life. And if you know the true definition of narcissism versus like narcissistic personality disorder, they're very different. Narcissism is a personality style versus the disorder is a disorder. It's a very different thing. They're very different. But I would say that I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know. I heard it a lot. I heard it used a lot on various different situations, and that's exactly what it is. It gets used a lot in a my boyfriend cheated on me as a narcissist. Well, those two things can be true together, but you have to break down both of those things separate as well. So I found myself in a heightened situation in a relationship that forced me into a deep dive in my life, which only really came to light like that was 5 years, probably 3 years ago, where I really got clear on it and knew my part in it and understood the things that I were doing. There was actually names for and diagnoses for, and they were real things. I just thought that was part of doing what I was doing to get what I wanted in my life. And I'm not just talking about relationships, just talking about everything in my life. So, first I just want to make sure we know the difference between narcissism, which is just a personality style. It falls under a bigger umbrella of the antagonistic word. It falls under that. It's a style. So it leads to like entitlement, arrogance, manipulation, grandioso ideas and actions, but it can be used as a personality style and not become somebody's issue or disorder. Them. It can be used just like anything else. Agreeability is a personality style. It can be used. Doesn't mean you're agreeable all the time. So the difference between those, but personality disorder is the weapon. It's the weaponized thing, and it's very under the radar diagnosed by anybody, even psychologists, because usually a narcissist that has a disorder doesn't come to anybody for help saying, I'm a narcissist, I need help. Usually something else is happening because of them being that way. Drug abuse, like drug abuse, my marriage failed, something big, work blew me off and blew me up, like something big happened in life, so they go see a therapist instead of going for I'm a narcissist. Like it's an underlying thing, and it's actually not caught by too many therapists because they come in for this problem, so they focus on the acute problem at hand. I'm dealing with depression. So they attack that for a long period of time. So it goes under the radar a lot, and it goes on for a long time and sometimes missed. So maybe a person comes in, they're abusing alcohol, and the success is that they got them off alcohol, they were clean X amount of time, but you're seeing this personality type keep popping up. It confuses a lot of people, like, well, we got them clean, what's going on? It's because the acute problem is not the problem. The very deep disorder. The hairy thing about it is it's very attractive disorder. It's very attractive to other people. It comes with a lot of more good times than bad. And if you collect those up, that's why a lot of people that have been in a relationship with a narcissist have a hard time leaving, because they count up the things. It can be exciting to be with a narcissist. It can be exciting to be in a lifestyle, because you'll see a lot of more good things and you'll see bad, and you'll count those as, well, that's why I stay. Or, well, we do have a lot of good times, because it's like living in Hawaii and Alaska at once. And every 3 days it's a blizzard. And then it just extremely changes to just the most beautiful weather ever. And it keeps doing that in short cycles. That's what it's like being in a relationship like that. And like I said, you could be very attracted to this idea, this lifestyle, and the things that they do, because two other words that we're gonna talk about is love bombing and gaslighting. Two things that I heard, I've what if it's on social media or something I've heard, but I just never even cared about or listened to, or I was like, what the fuck is that? It's probably some stupid TikTok trend like every other thing that's online. But what's crazy is the word, this is a little sick, but the word of the year of 2022 by a landslide was gaslighting. I don't know if everybody knows truly what that is. It's I didn't know what it was, but I definitely have done it, and I've done it a lot, but I didn't know that's what it was. Gaslighting it's actually based off a long time ago, based off a play like 100 years ago of this man, the husband and wife scenario, that the man psychologically abuses this woman over time, and that's what the gaslighting is about. And then there's 3 things that have to come with it to be gaslighting. It's not just one or the other. It's a combination of 3 things that has to happen. One is the denial of somebody else's reality. So you come at me and say, you tell me, why did you do this? And I say, this didn't happen. That didn't happen. So I'm denying you of your own reality, number 1. Number 2 is you can follow it up with telling them there's something wrong with them, or either thinking that or just in general. That's number 2. And then 3 is that it's not a one-off incident ever. It's a long play. It's a long play of a strategy. Gaslighting isn't you can just do it once. It's a combination of those 3 things that is intended to last a long time. It's to bring somebody to the point of their breaking, that they deny their own reality and accept anything that it now is. And that's what gaslighting is. And it's shitty to even like say it out loud, but like I was doing that when I was in a situation. I realized when it blew up, when I had to look at it, everything was very clear to me. When I started, like, I went to therapists and I studied it, it was like a stupid moment, because I felt very comfortable with the things they were saying about it. I was like, oh yeah, no, I do that. And that felt stupid to me, because it was like, it's not a good thing to agree to. But yeah, so I think the tricky thing is the person on the other side of the relationship of a narcissist or with a disorder is you got to play this game of multiple truths. Like, he is a good father. He makes me feel bad. He has a great job. He yells at me sometimes. Like, you can go through a list of just truths, but if you count them up with a narcissist, you can find yourself weighing out, but he's a good provider for my kids, and weigh these things heavier. And it's the reason why, more than 55% of people stay in these relationships for a long term, because they'll sacrifice that game of multiple truths, because they'll have to. The sad part is you have to play that game in the first place. That's a pretty good sign that you're in one relationship, when you have to do that, when you have to justify and weigh the truths, the multiple truths in your life, and realize, yeah, but we have a good home and he's a good provider for the kids. Yeah, but right, and you start to outweigh the really, really bad stuff. This storm I told you, like Hawaii and Alaska, it's like, when it comes hard. You're on a ship in the middle of the ocean, and the worst storm of your life is the problem. That's the bad times with narcissists. And then all the other stuff's grandioso, because that's what narcissists do. They play that game, and they're often spontaneous. They're often love bombing in a situation where they put you in a category to can't say no. Right? It's part of the breaking down of the other person's reality. It's love bombing. I didn't know either. I didn't know that one, but that usually happens. They said something between like 6 and 18 months in a relationship. You get through that, and when somebody they'll start to turn that off, and they'll start to devalue you, and that's how they keep you in the position. Right. So if you get love bombed a lot, and they start to lean into the things that maybe you think that they recognize that you like, or start to convince you of the things that you like, let's go on this trip, let's do this thing, let's do this thing. And the dangerous thing is, this one kind of blew my mind, because I had to go back through my relationships and understand that, yeah, that's 100%, is that you can't tell a gaslighter or a narcissist that they are one, because if you do, they'll double down. I'll just go right back to number 1, number 2, and 3, but I'll double down on it. Right. So you can't just call somebody out and say you're a narcissist, that's your issue, you're gaslighting. It doesn't work that way, because it's not, like I told you before, it's not connected very often to something that's been diagnosed. They might have gone through depression or something. Maybe they've seen a therapist, maybe they've had some work done, but usually has nothing to do with that particular thing. So if you confront them in that way, they'll double down and continue. They'll work their way through it. No, it didn't. That's not what's happening. Or the suspicion of cheating, the idea of your wife comes home and says, is there something going on with you? Like, you've just been distant. I don't know if you spend a lot more time at work, or no, nothing's going on with me. But you know what I don't like? This distrustful, distasteful, jealousy thing you got going on here. That's the steps. See, like when something goes in line. So it's and to be very clear, lying, it seems like a form of lying, but there's a very distinction between lying and gaslighting. Lying is the denial of evidence, which are facts, right? But gaslighting is to lie. It's a lie, but it's wrapped up in this invalidation bow, right? So it is a lie still, but it's wrapped up in this I don't value you. You don't have any bow of there you go. That's gaslighting. So it's not denying evidence, which is just lying. That's straight lying. Is maybe somebody's just a liar. It's okay, but it's the word of the year, gaslighting. Narcissism's right behind it. Buzzwords. Again, it can be often labeled on things that aren't. what it is. You could just feel like you're being lied to and you're like, oh, this guy's gaslighting me, or he's a narcissist. And sometimes it's not true. But the evil part of it is it's predicated in trust. It's the people that are closest to you that are going to be able to be the best at getting to you on it and getting you gaslighted or falling into this disorder, because it's the whole idea of being a narcissist is predicated on trust, building that first. That's why the love bombing comes first. And then the devaluing comes next. And now you have some deep rooted trust in this person and you can't get out of the cycle. There's a lot of times where, well, the studies say that it's 2 to 3 year plus before somebody recognizes they're in one. You know, as an analogy I heard this doctor say was, sometimes you see the signs of it because it is, I told you, it's a sexy thing. Like people are attracted to the idea of how a narcissist lives their life. But early on, you can see some stuff and go, oh, that seems like that. Maybe a red flag, but usually it takes so much time because of the deception, the layers of deception. So what happens is, the way she said it was really cool. So early on, you might see a pixel, but we can't see a picture until we see all the pixels. The thousands of pixels together end up showing us the actual picture and what we're looking at. We're with a narcissist. We're like over here, you can't really tell what it looks like. You maybe think you're looking at it. And that's an early on thing. Amber, did you?
Oh, it was just so much is like flooding in. There's so many levels to this. So I don't want to stop your train of thought if you're not ready for conversation on it yet, but
No,
I was just
got something to say.
I was just thinking, like, I mean, number one, you know, I don't know how the rest of the world, I don't know how like people who were brought up in homes where everything looked normal and good and there wasn't necessarily a narcissist father or narcissist mother or whatever in the situation, or mother-in-law or grandmother, whatever. But, you know, obviously in our upbringing, you know, dad would have been considered a narcissist. And in those days, we didn't use that word yet, you know, as fluently as it is now, but it was more of, you know, it was about the selfish, self-indulgent, unavailable, you know, ladies man guy around town. You know, he could really be a hero, but he could also be the absolute worst abuser and manipulator and, you know, all the things. And that's how I personally learned how to fall in love and pick a narcissist out of any crowd. I could pick the number one narcissist asshole in any crowd, and he could look and seem the opposite of every other narcissist I've ever known and be the exact same person over and over again. So for me personally, it was like a trained, you know, call and response, where that was the natural cycle. You have someone who is supposed to be a model of some kind of functional, healthy, conditional love, who is actually everything that you want to love in the model, but completely emotionally unavailable to you, which only makes you feel more desperate, more anxiety, anxious attachment, more chase, more desire to prove yourself, more unworthiness, more something must be wrong with me. Why doesn't this person love me? You know, and then you grow up and you're like, you know, in your adult life, and you know these things conceptually, and you meet the narcissist and the audacity of them, even the knowing when you can see it happening. You know, for me, it's like guys that like can totally justify like treating you like you're the most important, beautiful girl they've ever met and having 6 other girlfriends that they treat equally well, like, like with no remorse, just other than why wouldn't I? You know, because ultimately it's about, to me, a narcissist, every single thing that they do is about them. You know, and then also when called out, play the victim as though they're like what, like, you know, which is just more infuriating, which is where the gaslighting comes in, because you're like, am I wrong for feeling this way? But yet, holy crap, like you infuriate me and now you're the victim. Now I feel fucking bad for you, excuse my French or whatever, but like how am I feeling bad for you when I literally, want to kill you, but it's actually because I want you to love me. Like holy God. And that exists in all kinds of situations, not just love situations. I think it's hardest within a family because as we get older, we can start to create. First, we learn it from our parents, can't get away from, just figure out how to survive. Then we get into our own voluntary relationships with it, where we have to learn how to get out. Then all of a sudden, it pops up at work and in your family or your cousin's fucking your boyfriend's sister or whatever, and you have to deal with it every Thanksgiving, every birthday, everything. And I always just in my own journey, it's like just gonna throw love at people and try not to get emotionally involved with the toxic ones anymore, or something, and not have to save them and not have to be triggered to need their love or want their love or validation or whatever it is, and be okay on my own 2 feet. But wow, yeah, there's a flood of stuff that comes up in that category from childhood through adulthood.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing it. I know it would bring up some stuff with anybody. I mean, I'm sure everybody's had a little stint with what I'm talking about. But to Amber's point, there is stuff that goes back to, when you're young and a baby and born and who you're around and how this disorder forms, because of your environment. And she's right. I mean, my father would be diagnosed with probably all of this. What's interesting is we talk a lot about, how as a baby we're sponges, and we always talk about on this, like, hopefully what we're doing helps the next generation be a little bit smarter or curve, but and the effects on children and learning. We talk about this all the time. In this situation, it very much comes from, what you see in or around. It's interesting because I don't, it's a sneaky disorder. It's a sneaky thing because I wouldn't have told you for 27, 30 years of my life that I ever saw that ever. Because I didn't recognize it as such a thing because I didn't know what the difference was. So it can be hairy to plus the dynamic of your parents are supposed to be the ones to protect you and never give you anything bad. And there's a lot to unpack in it. But Amber's right. I mean, it comes from how you're raised, all the way from the beginning when you're in the womb. It goes all the way back, like how your parents were, period. So
and let me just say too that like in my own growing, like at first I would just be like the rest of the people after the Oprah generation that just came out were like, as soon as we named them as assholes, well, now those are the assholes. Okay. That's just, they can all be seated over here. And now, in our growing and in our ascension and our spiritual journey too, I can look at all those people, my father included, every guy I've ever dated, including anyone who's ever hurt me, who I would consider a narcissist today. And I know that truly that is their own pain, in that they cannot be emotionally available fully to any one person because they are hurting, they are scared. And so the mask and the deflection and all those things that they have to own and walk around carrying and have all these fake weird relationships in their lives. I mean, how much work is that? And so I have empathy and sympathy and forgiveness and love for, everyone, regardless, now, because I can see it as that. Whereas before it was just like, why don't they love me? But that's a child's mind, and so I'm grateful to be at least in that space in the world, that it's not that you're not still triggered on occasion when you meet someone and have that response, but you can go, okay, that person is not where I'm at, and they can't be present in this moment, and that's why they can't love me. It has nothing to do with me. And so at least that's a meter too for our own personal growth as far as the responsiveness in those relationships. not just our own role in them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, very true. I think once personally, for me, once I learned about it and started putting the dots together, that's who I was becoming. I did a lot of work backwards. I went through stuff backwards, like how I got to where I got, relationships I were in, marriage, my business. And I've talked about this before, but not in this way, or told you guys why, but to weaponize something is the ill intent, right? Is we can take anything, we talk about manipulation of the word, and it can be good, or if somebody weaponizes it, it's a bad thing. I was unknowingly what it was termed or what it was, or if I had anything, I was weaponizing it, and I was using it to my advantage, in every sense of the word, everywhere, through business, through relationships, friendships, relationships, because it was like, for me, the way I got to where I got was no matter what mentality. But I never had an ill heart towards anything. I never was like, oh, I'm gonna fuck this person over, or I can't wait. And I don't think anybody that knows me ever thought that, I hope. But for me, it was more about, I can't fail. Like, I have no other option. Like, I can't fail. Not because I'm arrogant and my ego says I'm so good at something. It was like, I can't fail. I cannot go to where I think I can go. Like, my fear of like going somewhere so bad, my past, or people I grew up like, that fear made me so scared that it was like, I'll do whatever it takes. And somewhere along the line, I started weaponizing these tools to get what I wanted. And I did this a lot. I mean, it became easy to me, because to get my way, if I just change your reality, well, then I'm winning. And it was, and I've never told my sister this, but I've done it to her. I've done it to my mother. It's easy for me to avoid the truth if I don't want to tell it to anybody. If I want my sister to think a narrative, or my mother to think a narrative when they ask me, I just make it true.
What's cute about that is only to you, because like we knew that. Like,
I mean, you knew.
I love you, but like that's cute and all, but that's kind of you're kind of underestimating the fact that mom and I have been dealing with hundreds of other hundreds of other narcissists our whole life. So just because we don't want you to be one, my brother, our son, our main dude, and pray every day that it'll pass, doesn't mean we didn't recognize it while it was happening. We just weren't willing to lose you or sacrifice you to the darkness. We were just gonna hold on until you made your way back, and here you are, thank freaking God. But you know what I mean? So just so we're clear.
I know that it's not like that. I'm just saying.
And I love you.
There's a lot of ways that I don't think it, when they talk about it, it's a very male dominated disorder, but it's
Yes.
not limited to the male. Now, man, I don't think that it's I don't think that it's a bad thing when it's recognized and you can know that's happening. I think fast forward to today, where I've come, why it's come up for me again, is because it's quite the opposite now. Like, I hesitate to get deep in a friendship, relationship, business. I have a slight hesitation now where I like start to question how I got it. And I start to think to myself, did I use my skills, my past skills? Did I use my pattern? Did I use somebody or something? So today it's more about like, I'm aware of it. I recognize it. How do I stay focused, but yeah, I can find myself questioning a situation very easily of, am I controlling the narrative? Am I controlling this relationship by creating my reality? Am I giving enough? Am I giving enough to the person on the other side of the phone, the other side of the coffee table, the other side of my siblings? Like, am I giving enough where I'm not controlling the narrative because I've spent so long doing it? And that's the work today. That's been my difficulty. You know, it's been holding me a little bit from doing things I probably normally would do, but it feels better that I'm questioning it, you know, and not realizing it later that, oh fuck, I'm a massive narcissist, and I'm just winning at my speed, and everybody else doesn't count. So, I mean, as we talk about,
What would you be doing if you weren't holding back?
I mean, and just anything, like I can, if I get in a relationship, I can just doubt myself out of it. Like, I don't want to. I know I'm very good at certain things. You know, I don't question that. I'm very good at things. So where I am, but in that, I can be very good at creating my way. And that's not always good for the person that's standing next to me. So in knowing that, you know, the one thing the therapist said, that the only real way out of I'm not in one, so it's not out, but just to say this, like the only real way out of a narcissistic relationship, because again, most people that are in them feel stuck in them and they last a long time. There's something called individualization. And it's like the idea of, after it's already noticed that you're in it, the only really way to overcome it or get it healthy again or try to work on it is this, and trying to really separate the individuals in the relationship and respecting yourself and each other separately. Very hard to do. This one therapist did 10,000s of people she's seen. She says she's only seen one successful situation in her career. It's not very good odds. But she says why this is a good practice is because she says a lot of the time there's 55% plus people that stay in these relationships for years, 10 years, decades, their whole life. Our grandparents, our parents, like where you physically could watch somebody and be like, why are these two people still together? She says it's not hers or our responsibility to say you should get out of that, because there's so much to unravel and unpack from why are they staying? Is it they're afraid? A religion? Is it culture? A lot of these things are tied deeply into something too. Also, like some cultures literally support this disorder I'm talking about. It's part of their culture. The man is like that, and that's what you have to deal with as a woman, period. So you're talking about this world we're going into where everybody has more of a voice and we're enlightened, everybody can speak on their own terms. It's like, she says, it's not my job to get her out. If a woman sees that, even in a culture situation, sees that in a man as something I don't want, I don't like being treated this way, it's not her job to get her out. It's her job to evaluate what she can expect from staying in. Right? Here's the reality of what you should expect by staying in this relationship. And if that doesn't line up with your individuality, like this drill, like, then that's your answer. I'm not going to tell you to get out of a relationship. I'm not going to tell you to, because those are deep-rooted things too in people. You know, besides this topic we're talking about, some of those things why people stay are very deep-rooted in themselves. So it's not as easy.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So with you bringing all this up and everything and wanting to talk about it, might as well go balls to the wall here. What were you trying to personally gain or hide by being a gaslighter? You know, you're saying that you noticed that in yourself in past relationships. So in those moments, were you trying to control the narrative because you were scared to go too deep, because you wanted to keep the control, because you had an agenda, whether that was your job or your future planning? Was it a more emotional fear? Like, what for you personally? Because you could answer billions of women's questions for, you know, eternity by being the vulnerable guy that tells the secrets. Because for you personally, you know, you're kind of that guy. So right? Like, what for you, what was the game? Because you are also equally good and loving and all the things. So
I would say that it was, so one thing that really stuck out to me in the beginning of that I learned and was told me by my therapist was that, and I think this is the answer for me, is they say when people get in this disorder, heavy in this disorder, they'll do things like, they have a lot of nice gestures going on, or do this, or we should do this, that. And if somebody in a relationship says, well, no, I don't think we should do that, or move too fast, or let's get to know each other, it's nice, or that, my side, the narcissist side, would be, it would be a dagger to them, to their heart, to their ego, to the self-love portion of it. You must not love me. And what we do in return is go back to that 3-step. What we go in return is we go on the defense and we fight back by saying, well, you must not like me, or you just strung me along this whole time, or you don't like me. It's like, no, it's the opposite is actually happening. This person respects you enough, they want to take it slow and get to know you. But I don't see that. We don't see that. So to answer your question, I think it was all based around, I think it was all based around like just self-worth and love from another person, understanding what that was supposed to be. And if I control that, I didn't have to get the raw answer, which I didn't want to hear.
okay.
So like I said, I don't ever, and I could be 100% wrong. I could ask everybody. I tried this, everyone knows. I tried to start this podcast by reaching out to everybody I've ever known, ex relationships from day one. I was calling everybody to say, come on this podcast. You're free to say anything you want. Like, we're gonna have no agenda. We're gonna speak openly. How do you know me? What do you know about me? And what have I brought to or taken from it? And it became a really good idea, and I was ready to do it. And you know, Amber kind of doubted it at first, and I was like, no, they'll do it. People were saying, yeah. And then the second when I started scheduling it, people were fucking dropping out like this. Like, yo, fuck that shit. Am I gonna go on there? So what? I have a family and shit. If they hear something that comes up, or like a fucking time we used to hang out, and I don't want to. I never even realized that at the time. I didn't realize I was doing it for myself, for my self-growth. I didn't realize that that's not everybody wants. Like, some people don't want to revisit all the shit I'm trying to revisit to try to grow. Some people want to just, I got here, I'm good now, leave me alone. And that's okay too. So it's an interesting, if I asked everybody, I don't think anybody would ever say that they felt ill will from me towards them, whether I've screwed them over or not. I don't think they'd ever get that from me, and I could be wrong, but I've never felt like I've done anything and been like, yeah, fucking, I got one over, and then I got something out of it, success or anything like that. But I clearly know by knowing that I've done these things and I've used them to my advantage. But because I felt like, you know, it comes from my mother, I felt like I had a really good heart too, that, well, I'm not hurting anybody. And that's just bullshit too. That's me, again, controlling the narrative, because I can't tell you how somebody else feels based off how they interact with me. So long answer, but I think it was the love part. I just think it was, I didn't want to face rejection in that area. So I just used it. I created the reality, you know, both for me and for the other person. You know, some of the reality I created for myself was a lie to myself. A lot of times I've been in a relationship with just myself, and I was the narcissist one in that relationship. I've done this to myself, which is fucked up. So, all that to say, it just came up. Like it was, I had heard that the doctor had mentioned first. I heard her in a thing earlier week. And then I think I said last week, I want to get this thing back to, I don't want to just talk about random shit every week. I want to get it back to like stuff that it's hard to do. Like this was hard for me. It's the only one I've really thought about for this the whole week. I thought about not doing it about an hour ago and just switching the topic because, you know, it's not about the word, it's about me. But I wouldn't be true to this, what this platform is supposed to be about and why I even started this thing in the first place. So, I think that's what I want to continue to do moving forward with this thing. Obviously every other week from Zoe, but you know, I want to go down the rabbit hole a little further, and I want it to be an area where we're allowed to all share it, you know. And if it brings up something for you, you know, say your piece. Like that's what we should be doing. So I appreciate you letting me ramble on about it, but it's been 3 years it took me to like speak about it, you know. It's not something that's like, again, raise my hand, be like, hey guys, I recognize it. I'm this thing. You know, it's not fun to tell people an idea of what a shitty person you are. You know, and I don't think that of myself now, but I did. You know, that's not fun to tell people around you that spend time with you, like, hey, you know, so I appreciate you guys listening to it, showing up for it. Anything coming up for anybody? Yeah, or are you muted or no? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have also been trying to keep myself together throughout this whole thing because I mean, this is just this is like hold in the word vomit, but being on the other side of narcissistic abuse and what it takes to heal from that. It's learned too, like when you have experienced narcissistic abuse since you were a child, and then you see it in every man that you date, and then you're like, it's okay. I love you anyway. It's okay. And then you realize that, like, you know, to be uber vulnerable. I mean, I had a relationship with a narcissist end with a gun in my face. And so like, that was like the final wake up call. Like, why do you stay that long? So you reach that wake up call, and then it takes you a year, and then you meet that wake up call in a woman. And then it takes you another 4 or 5 years to heal from that narcissistic abuse. And then all of a sudden you can see where you have learned these traits. So it's like, it's such a freaking onion of a topic. Like there's so many flipping levels to it that it's like, okay, you can sit here and say that you have the disorder, but then everybody in this world is probably walking around with a learned narcissistic trait. Like you were talking about in the beginning. I mean, you know, there's a difference, but.
Yeah, I want to say to that point where you said it, this whole thing, it's what we're talking about, mental health, narcissism, gaslighting, this whole topic about mental abuse is really new, by the way. It's a very new subject that is allowed to be talked about. So you think about our grandparents, nobody said shit about narcissism or gaslighting or love bombing. It was just, it would be to the woman probably an abusive relationship, but you didn't even say that because you weren't allowed to. It was just a relationship. That's what the fuck it is. That's what it's called. So to your point, it's hard to navigate through where it came from or why you accept it. Two versions. Like I became one. My sister and Lauren just shared how they sought them out, right? There's so many layers of and how you get there and why you search out these people. But again, it's very new. It's a very new talked about space, even in psychology, that it's even out. So we're still navigating through like what it means, and like she said, the layers of the onions, like it's so deep rooted in so many different things. But man, you got to keep your eyes open to recognize if, again, it's not a woman man thing. It's you can be it. Anybody can be it. You can be the victim of it, and you can be it. And again, you get a balance between the personality style and actually disorder. It's a fine balance. You can, all of us, like she said, we can have traits, the personality style traits in us. I think everybody has probably shown that for sure. But
As soon as you sent me the text today about it, I was like, oh my Jesus. I was like, oh God.
I'm enjoying that.
We're
I
just
know,
gonna-
I was
we're gonna-
nervous for
Keep
you
my
to
mouth
do
shut
it.
this whole time.
Yeah, when you announced last week you were gonna do it on Christmas night or whatever the next day, I was like, you sure you don't want to wait? And I never say anything like that. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I think
I think it was literally this time last year. And I called it my suicide brain. I wrote like blog after blog of like trying to get out of the abuse in my brain of it. And I called it my suicide brain. And I wrote this I wrote like 4 in a row blogs, like long ass blogs about the narcissist and like, a narcissist and an empath walk into a bar. Like, holy
Right.
extremes,
Yeah.
And then to like try to balance out those extremes that live within your brain and like, holy shit, man, how do you live?
I'm glad you said that, because that's something we didn't really touch on tonight, but like that is a true yin yang attraction that we see more and more of too, is that, the empath on the other side of that, because we can feel so deeply for the narcissist because we know it stems in pain. We think that, and my mom would have been the ultimate. Yeah, oh yeah. My mom would have been the ultimate model of that, in that love and prayer can save anyone. And my dad would spent his entire life proving that wrong, because you cannot save another person. And I think this is kind of where these talks started with all of us, is that, at the end of the day, the only real control that we have personally is our own modeling, like modeling a new path, a different model. Because you cannot make someone love you. You cannot fix someone. You cannot save someone. You cannot change someone's path. It's all us. It's all us alone in a room with ourselves and the part of us that we want to change or grow or improve or let go of.
Yeah.
So that's that the reflections, all these different people and things. It's like, who do I want to be in this world? Where do I fit in it all, and what can I do? The serenity prayer all over again.
It's a teeter-totter of the narcissist trying to devalue you and the empathic person trying to show your value at the same.
Yeah.
And it's a very toxic thing, because the empath has the intention to help the situation and show value. So there's a twofold. The narcissist has only the intention to make sure you have no value.
Right.
And only in his eyes, meaning, or her eyes, that you only have value when they say so, when needed, when I tell you, or I tell you how you're valuable, which is very small. So, empath, enlightened, any caretaker. My mother was very much so, like anybody that's, agreeable. Personality type's a tough one too, because you find yourself in that position of just like, how the fuck do I please this person?
Yep.
Like, there's got to be a way. Like, why can't I show them my love? Why can't I please them? And oftentimes, in my case, mine was mindless. Mine wasn't sit down and I didn't have anything else going on and I wanted to destroy this person so I felt good. I had so much going on that the relationship have much value to me. So I just created a reality around it and I just kept moving. So there's different layers to it, but the intention is really to make sure that your value sits right here until it's ready to be used. And that's narrated by me. Right. So it's a nasty thing. It's the reason why it takes so long. I mean, all the cases this woman psychologist talks about just years and years and years. And she, to the point where she even says, when a client tells her now, she's like, I've been in this for 2+ years. She's like, I just finally got out, just recognize it and getting out of it. She goes, oh, you're lucky. Like she's starting to say that now, like, you're lucky. 2 years only? That's lucky. You have plenty of time. Now you're moving, you know, because she's dealing with people 10, 15, 20 years in. Some people, they were like, when they came to see her, didn't even know anything was going on until she started to explain words and definitions. I go, wait, what? Oh, that's been going on since 1989. Right? If you don't know, because again, that's why I wanted to say this is very new in our generation, our lifetime, that people are even allowed to talk about it, or that it comes up anywhere. So, you know, I have massive empathy for like my grandparents and their age, and even my parents. Like my parents, I don't care when it popped up. My parents didn't know shit about shit. Because that's just what it was. They were just surviving. So I have empathy towards, you know, you don't know what's bad. And that's sad too. You just think this is just what it should be. That's what it is, right? That's what my friends tell me. My parents told me, oh, you don't get divorced. You just stay in it. Or, I mean, just work it out. It's not that bad. Like all these bullshit narratives that we're told, because they have an idea of what it is. Like you're supposed to do these things. Okay. You got married, you committed to it. You fucking stay in it. That's what it is. Period. Stop talking about it. And then
Or it's not even the narrative. It's sometimes it's not even that. It's like what Amber said, when you grow up with a narcissistic parent, or maybe two narcissistic parents, then that's familiar to you. And so that's what you know, that's what you seek out. And then that's what you think normal life is. And that's what you put up with, or you try to prove your self-worth to. And so that's what you end up with until
Love feels like when you're used to
right.
it. Love
Yeah,
feels
that's exactly. That's what love is to you. That's how you know it.
Yeah, very good point. I mean, that's what it is. And that's why I think we are supposed to be doing these things, right? To talk to each other. It's like, how do you know anything else if you just don't know? And it's like, you got to explore it. You got to talk to other people that grew up differently. You got to know, oh, what? You didn't have two narcissist parents? Where were you born? Like, what time was that? You know, you gotta ask these questions and talk to people that maybe didn't experience the life we did. And I think probably in my case, I don't know if it's generational or area driven, but in my case, growing up, the group of people I was around, friends and their families, were very similar in nature. I didn't really have any standouts that were like, oh, holy shit, these people are like fucking enlightened over here. It was like we're all pretty much dealing with the same shit. Parents were kind of just getting it done, but they're kind of assholes, and they were still young too, and like, you know, they had kids and they didn't really know how to do it. And we were all kind of all like that. I didn't know anything different until I left for the first time. I saw some things, and I still didn't really know what it was, but you know, we grew up in a small town, and it was just it seemed normal. It's just what it is, right? So it's a very good point you bring up. You don't know. You decide what your idea of love is from somebody you trust, right? It's predicated in trust. It's a big deal, right? And it could be your family, it could be your parents, it could be the doctors. One powerful thing she was talking about is, you know, politicians, they can gaslight an entire culture and country. It's insane. Like, it's that powerful. This tool, if you will, right? It's weaponized tool is that powerful. It can change the minds of one and many countries if you continue it. It's a long-term play. It's a keep on making sure you devalue, and in that order. Do not recognize the reality, change it, blame it, do it again. So
Did anybody watch that? I know you did, Michael. Did anybody else see Jonah Hill's new documentary, Struts there?
that's
STRUTZ. It's about his therapist. It's about his journey to mental health, but through his journey to mental health, he meets this incredible man who has Parkinson's disease, who's also a therapist and a life traveler, and he has all these wonderful ideas for mental health that are what we all kind of know, like we remember somehow, like when you see it you're like, oh, exactly, but he kind of simplifies it, writes it all down. But there's a moment in it where he just tears it all down, and he's just like, I can't do this. We're filming it like this is all one day where we're just having a conversation. We've been doing this for 3 fucking years, putting the same clothes on on a green screen. I'm wearing a wig to make it look like I haven't had my hair cut in 3 years. And he just tears it all down and deconstructs the whole thing. And he's like, might as well just, like, I feel dishonest in even this conversation, and let's just strip it down and make it real and raw. And to your point earlier, Mike, like, anytime somebody rips the curtain down so you can see backstage to the true vulnerability it takes to live the life, and not just what you do to show up at the studio to make the show. I think that's the real bravery and the real breakthrough and the real revolutionary, historic, model changing moments,
Yeah, you can't be scared to lose, right? My guess is the thing. You can't be scared to, or what do they call it, canceled today, whatever the fuck it is. I don't, the fear is always that if you say something out loud that's true of you, that the ones around you will not stand by you. The future people won't enjoy you or like you.
Bye.
People will start to disappear in your lives, I understand the fear and the idea, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be put out in the cold. Nobody wants to be kicked to the curb by the people that you think love you. But it's the only way to know who actually loves you, because
Real ones stay.
I can't tell you something like this. I can't share this thing with you that I've been brewing on for a long time. And I share it with you guys and just know in my heart that whatever it is, doesn't matter. Because then what are we doing? Right? I don't want to hold on. I want help holding on to it. Right? I don't want to carry the load every single day of the village and be the only one putting in. Right? I think that's what sometimes we feel like when we don't share our feelings, our true truths to each other or to anybody, is we feel like we're doing all the work, which is not true. We feel like we're doing all the work simultaneously, but we don't fucking tell each other. So we hold resentment towards one another because you think you're doing all the work. I have to do all the shit. Why am I always the one getting picked on? Why is God not like, you get in that mentality because you never shared it with anybody. You're hiding it and creating a different reality for others to see. And in that point, that has narcissistic characteristics to that style. So again, we all participate in it in some form. Some of us just go off the deep end, like myself, but are covered.
I was going to say, I think there's a difference between having the disorder and then having narcissistic traits. And I listened to a podcast once about it. And the first question was, if you're questioning whether you're a narcissist or not, you're not. You may have narcissistic traits.
Right.
So those traits can be changed.
Yeah. So. I never questioned it.
You just knew it.
I didn't know what the name was. I just knew the tools. I knew them and I knew how to use them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know we're running a little bit long. Anybody have any? Did everybody have a great Christmas? I didn't mean like bring down this. Everybody have a great day yesterday, Christmas. Did Santa Claus down the bottom there bring you everything you needed? Did you make it to everybody's house there, Santa? Okay, everybody had a good day. Wonderful. All right, well, appreciate y'all being here. If anybody else, yes.
I just wanted to add quick that from all the trauma and the pain that we go through and learning about ourselves, just to remind ourselves to, no matter what, to always keep our hearts open, right? And because that's where the blessings get in. And just to remind ourselves that we're worthy of that, we're lovable, and we can give that to ourselves, we can give to others.
I love that. I love that hoodie. What is that?
Yeah, I like that too.
My Christmas gift to myself.
Nice. That's a badass hoodie.
Did you design it? Are those little wings or lightning bolts? What is it?
I didn't, but very addicting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have matching pants too.
Of course.
Jason. Hey Jason, what's going on with Lori? You guys have a rough holiday or what's going on? You were reaching out a little bit. Share with us.
You froze.
Can you hear us, Jason?
I think you froze.
I like that during the deepest part of our conversation, he had a pillow that just said, "Take me to the mountains," above his head. Well, everybody, just let's pray for Jason and Lori, his wife, and she's been having some anxiety and some underlining stuff, in which we've all talked about anxiety being some kind of catalyst, just telling us something has to change. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing at all. It's just something stirring us to stir, so you're not alone. Hey, buddy, can you hear us?
Nah, he's broken up.
Shit.
All right, gang.
Well, we love y'all.
We love everybody. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate the support. Have a wonderful week. And see you. Is it next week? New Year's next week? No. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Happy New Year's. Well, I'll see you after that. See you in the next year. Love everybody. Bye.
Mwah. Good night. Love y'all.